Well, welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. Today I'm working on jerky again, and I figured out why my starter was so loose. I spent about an hour at lunch yesterday doing research on the 6.2 diesel, and I spent a couple more hours last night doing research on the 6.2 diesel, and I learned that the starter bolts for a 6.2 diesel are an M10 by 1.5 thread, and the bolts that came in this truck are 3/8 quarters. So it's got the wrong bolts in it. That's what was in it when it came to me. I put some of those in and I'm like, those don't fit right. Something's amiss. GM still has the correct bolts in stock. They're $12 a piece. So we're gonna put the right bolts in, see if that resolves our loose starter bolt issue. The strap that goes on the back of the starter is also missing, so I have one of those coming. And that'll help stabilize the starter as well. So right now I'm gonna start pulling the bolts of the transmission out, and we're gonna put a new flywheel in this thing because it's destroyed. I feel like I just did a starter on this. It was my mistake for not doing my research. If you have to put washers on the heads of the starter bolts, more than likely you have the wrong bolts. GM knew how they were building them, or Detroit Diesel in this case. So if the stuff doesn't fit right, you probably need to figure out why it doesn't fit right. In this case, it's because the wrong bolts were in there, and I didn't think an engine that was designed in 1982 would have metric starter bolts. Well, I was wrong. I don't know why they went to metric in 82, but this is one of those vehicles from the era where you never know if it's got metric or standards in it, so you got to pay attention. It's heavy. See this little stud back here, and there's a boss up in here, and there's a little strap that goes from there to the engine block. It's actually a ground strap, so you need to clean the surfaces off on it. I have one ordered. It'll be here hopefully on Monday, but hopefully these starter holes aren't all wallowed out. But they probably are, because that's the kind of luck I have. Ooh, let's go get a chaser for that. That one is definitely wallowed out. So we're going to be doing a thread repair on this engine block for the starter, because that hole is all methed up. Let's run a chaser down it just for giggles. Alright. So my M10 by 1.5 thread chaser went through pretty good in both holes. Unfortunately, the knurled area on the inboard bolt hole is kind of elongated and wallowed out. So I'm probably going to have to do a thread repair there. I have a thread repair kit coming. It was a couple $100 for the tooling, but it's enough to do 4 holes, so hopefully I only have to do 1 on this engine. I'll show you what a 3/8 bolt in the hole looks like. Because a 3/8 coarse bolt will thread into an M10 1.5, but you can see that it's loose. Now if you look at the other hole, let me get this guy out of there. See how loose he is? That's not good. This guy's super loose. that's not good. Not good at all. You can see the M10 bolt. Go get him. Goes in and it's nice and snug. Now it's not going to be snug in this hole because it's all messed up. But I may be able to actually lock the starter down better. Oh yeah, that's really wallowed out. That's really not good. I may have to do a second step on that. We're lucky it didn't crack the block out anywhere, because the idea is to reuse this block. Oh well. So that's the first problem we're fighting, is starter bolt up issues. This bolt here is being quite rough to try and get out. It's actually 15 millimeter. Oh man, that one was tight. Somebody Magilla Gorilla'd that one on there. I guess that's my last one. Let's just zip him off. Since my starter's out of the way. Oh, I already loosened him. That was on there. Alright, torque converter's loose. I'm going to see if I can cheat on this job. There's enough room between these rails that I may be able to just pull the transmission loose and pivot it out of the way and just pop the rear seal off and the flywheel off without getting all crazy like. So we're going to give that a shot. It'll probably end up biting me in the rear. That's usually what happens when I try and cheat stuff. But let's give it the old college try, shall we? Cable's got enough play. If I pull the carrier bearing, it'll allow me a little extra play to move the trans back. Maybe. This is a 4L80E transmission behind a 6.2 naturally aspirated diesel. 6.2 diesels were built from 1982 until, well, right around 2000. They are all of the same architecture, and they bolt in place of a small block Chevy. So the motor mounts, or the engine mounts, and the bell housings are the same as a small block Chevy. So that's neat. This is a 21.8:1 compression engine. Completely gutless, but it will do it all day long. I'm gonna need to support that engine somehow while I have the transmission loose, because I don't trust this exhaust. So I need to put something here to hold him, pull my bell bolts, slide my trans back, and pull my flex plate off. So that's next. This is one of those trucks that has 13 millimeter bolts and 15 millimeter bolts and 9/16 standard bolts. It's like a box of chocolates. We could probably pick that guy up. it's going to need a trans mount because it's rotten. Our front leaf springs are almost at the stops. So the front leaf springs are worn out. It's actually going to need rear leaf springs and U-bolts as well. One of the U-bolts is rusted completely off, which is a little scary. But not uncommon for a 30-year-old truck. I had to put a new O-ring in my jack for one of the pump valves because it was leaking down. That wouldn't have worked well, so we put a load on our jack and see if it works. I've had this jack for, I don't know, 10 years or so it's certainly probably due for some work. It's definitely due for a good cleaning. Man, that thing's heavy. Well, we're gonna have to come back to this. This is not the easiest thing to record. Probably should have rolled this in the shop, but too late now. We'll come back in a minute. Oh, my T-Rex arms just aren't quite long enough. Come on, get out of there. So close. Just won't come out. Geez, I might be pulling this trans after all. Guess I'll go grab a pry bar. I don't know if you can see anything or not. Probably not. I know I can't see anything. Could have ended worse. Got it. Thing came down like a guillotine. Should have had a hand on it, Rich. Dummy. That is quite the flex plate. At least what's left of one. Whew, let's get the new one. Make sure it's the same thing. So my new flex plate, my old flex plate are correct. You can see this hole here is elongated and the other 5 are round. So the first torque converter bolt is going to get put into this one and tightened down. And because this one's the smallest hole, all the other holes will be aligned up because this one is the alignment hole. So you put your first torque converter bolt in the smaller hole and then you can tighten them all down. You can see these teeth are pretty buggered up with that starter not holding correctly. That's a good chunky one. Anyway, there's a few chunks missing there. A few chunks missing there. It's pretty hurt. So new flywheel. Moving forward. This will only go on one way, and that should be that way. I have a dowel I need to line up. Oh, golly. Jack is in my way. So I go to put this thing back together and I find a bunch of my bell housing bolts are completely stretched. They're necked out. So that puts a delay in this process. We'll have to get some new bell bolts for it. See what I can come up with if I have anything handy. Probably not. Hopefully just something enough to get it back together for now. I can switch the bell bolts out later for them when they come in. Whew. Well, I grabbed some bolts out of the bolt bin for my bells to hold it together till we get the correct ones, because we need studs to hold brackets. And my hardware doesn't have that. Basically all of these bell bolts have been stretched and they're compromised. They're gonna fail. Right now I'm trying to line up my bell bolt, my dowels on my transmission, because my engine and my transmission aren't syncing up. And we're gonna fix that real quick. Basically the floor is right on top of the transmission, and the engine dropped down a little bit and it's being difficult, but we'll get it. I'm just going to draw it together slowly, hopefully not crack the housing, because drawing a transmission onto a transmission is a really good way to break a transmission. Well, I got the transmission all back in, it's all bolted up, torque converter, bell bolts are all together. I'm going to see if I can get some more of the studded bell bolts, because I need 2 of them to mount my transmission shift cable. The ones I have I can use if I absolutely need to. I just can't pull torque on those because they're already stretched. The dowels are what really carry the load. The bolts just hold the engine and transmission together. So having good bolts in the other spots would be okay if I needed to. But I think I'll be able to get the bolts. So I'll get new ones for it if I can. This transmission is really hard to put into this truck because it's really tight to the floor. There's actually an access panel right here that you can pull out to make transmission installation and removal easier. Except these bolts are stuck and locked into the riv nuts, so getting them out is not an option any longer, which complicates working on this 25-year-old truck. I guess it's a 30-year-old truck. Well, it's the end of the day Monday. My parts came in today. My starter's installed by correct metric. Starter bolts are installed with no need for washers, mind you. The starter strap is installed, which is also a ground strap. I actually ground the surface against the block, and the surface that on the strap that contacts the block and the starter. That way we have our proper ground path to the body of the starter. So we're going to go ahead and roll this thing over and see what happens. I still think I have a fuel system problem or an injection pump problem, so that's going to be the next thing to do. First we have to get it rolling over, then we got to see what else we have to fix. So let's crank her over and see what happens. It's not a good sign for fuel pressure. So let's check our fuel lift pump, which I hear it humming over there. I don't think we have fuel going through the fuel filter, so I'm going to get a filter for it. So it doesn't appear we have fuel coming through our fuel filter, so I'm going to get a fuel filter for it, make sure that's good, and then we'll try the next thing, which may be lift pump. I don't know. We'll get to that next. Thanks for watching. Click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Tell us what you think about this old aluminum-bodied bread truck with a 6.2 diesel and a 4L80E transmission. If we can get it running, it actually ought to do the guy pretty well. I guess he bought it in this condition. He's never heard it run, so he bought it in a non-running condition. At any rate, we'll get it fixed. That's what we do. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.